When a loyal K9 wouldn't stop barking at his handler's coffin, everyone thought it was grief. But when they finally opened the lid, the truth he uncovered left the entire police force in stunned, tearful silence. This is the story of a dog's final act of devotion at the front of the aisle. The colonel's coffin rested on a wooden platform, draped in the American flag he had served under for decades. That a hush had fallen over the room. Even the smallest children sat perfectly still, sensing the importance of the moment. Beside the casket, the colonel's K9 partner sat with perfect posture. His chest rose and fell in shallow, rapid breaths. The dog's name was Titan, a massive German shepherd with deep brown eyes that never wavered from the coffin. Every few seconds, his ears twitched as if he was listening for something no one else could hear. The chaplain stepped forward and began to speak, voice echoing across the pews. He was a leader, a protector, and a man of unshakable honor. Titan shifted his weight, a low whine slipping from his throat. That an officer knelt to rest a gloved hand on his back, offering quiet reassurance. But Titan didn't relax. Instead, he inched forward, nose lifting to catch a scent drifting through the air, something that didn't belong. The chaplain's voice faltered as Titan's whine grew louder. At first, everyone tried to ignore it. A dog in mourning, they thought. But then the whine turned into a sharp, insistent bark. People shifted uncomfortably in the pews. A few glances darted toward the handler, who tugged gently on Titan's harness. Titan didn't listen. He planted both front paws against the base of the casket and let out another bark. Louder, more urgent this time. Gasps rippled through the room. The colonel's widow clutched her handkerchief to her mouth. Two officers took a step forward, unsure whether to intervene. "Titan," the handler said, voice tight. "Leave it. Come." But the dog only growled and pawed at the coffin again, claws scraping the polished wood. His hackle stood on end, his body vibrating with tension. A murmur spread among the gathered officers. This wasn't grief. This was something else, something none of them could explain. The chaplain slowly closed his prayer book, eyes wide with unease. The Titan's handler swallowed hard, feeling every eye in the church fixed on him. He tightened his grip on the harness and gave a firm command, "Down. Heel." The dog didn't move. Instead, Titan locked his gaze on the coffin and let out a guttural growl that sent chills through the entire room. His claws dug into the floor, as if he was preparing to lunge. The senior officer standing near the widow stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Control your animal." "I'm trying," the handler whispered, but there was a tremor in his voice that Titan's ears flattened. He let out another deep bark, then pressed his nose against the edge of the casket, pawing frantically. The colonel's widow choked back a sob. "What is he doing?" Titan ignored the question, and every order shouted his way. He climbed halfway onto the coffin, body trembling, and began scratching at the flag with single-minded determination. "Titan, no." The handler grabbed his collar, trying to pull him back. For a moment, it looked as though the dog might finally submit. But then Titan looked up, met his handler's eyes, and whined. A raw, pleading sound that made the room go still. It wasn't disobedience. It was desperation, and deep down, everyone watching knew something inside that casket didn't belong. The senior officer drew in a slow, shaky breath. His gloved hands curled into fists at his sides. "We can't," he began, but his voice trailed off as Titan let out another heart-wrenching bark. The widow lifted her tear-streaked face and spoke with surprising strength. "Please," she whispered. "Open it." Silence fell, thick and expectant. Two officers exchanged hesitant glances. The chaplain shifted uneasily, as if searching for guidance no prayer could offer. Titan sat back on his haunches, chest heaving, eyes locked on the polished wood as if he could see through it. "Do it," the widow repeated, her voice trembling. "I have to know." At last, the senior officer nodded. "Stand back," he ordered softly. The handler tightened his hold on Titan's collar, though the dog no longer struggled. His whole body vibrated with anticipation. Two officers stepped forward and carefully folded back the flag. Their hands moved in perfect unison, almost ceremonial. Though the moment felt anything but ordinary, they reached for the brass clasps and unhooked them one by one. The entire church seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a slow creak that echoed through the pews, they lifted the lid of the coffin, The lid swung open, and for a moment no one moved. Sunlight from the stained glass fell across the colonel's uniformed body, highlighting every precise fold of the dress blues he'd been laid to rest in. Titan inched forward, his nose working furiously at the first glance. Nothing seemed out of place. The colonel's medals gleamed softly on his chest. His hands were folded over an old leather-bound Bible. But then Titan let out a sharp bark and lunged, pawing insistently at the lining near the colonel's left arm. One of the officers started to protest, but the widow raised her hand. "Let him," she whispered. Titan hooked his claws into the velvet and tugged. The fabric tore with a quiet rip, revealing a small hidden compartment built into the side of the casket. Gasps echoed through the church. Inside the compartment lay a sealed manila envelope and a small wooden box, its lid carved with the shape of a German shepherd's head. The handler swallowed hard and reached for the envelope. The name scrawled across it in neat, deliberate letters made his hands tremble. To Titan and Officer Reed. Titan sat back, panting, eyes fixed on the box. No one spoke as the handler slowly lifted it free. The colonel hadn't taken everything to the grave after all. Officer Reed's hands shook as he broke the wax seal on the envelope. He glanced up at the widow for permission, and she gave a single nod, her eyes shining with tears. "My dearest Titan," he read aloud, voice cracking. "If you are hearing this, then you proved again that your loyalty is stronger than any command." Titan let out a low, mournful whine. Reed swallowed hard and continued. "This medal belongs to you. You were more than my partner. You were my family. I hid this because I didn't want anyone else to claim credit for your bravery." He lifted the lid of the carved box, revealing a silver medal glinting in the sunlight. The engraving read, "For unmatched valor and loyalty, Titan A Collective." Gasp rippled through the pews. Tears streamed freely down the widow's face. She stepped forward, laying a trembling hand on Titan's massive head. "You were always his greatest pride," she whispered, and in that moment, everyone understood why Titan had refused to let the coffin stay closed. He wasn't only mourning, he was making sure the truth came with them into the light. The senior officer stepped forward, his polished shoes echoing across the marble floor. He took the medal from Officer Reed's trembling hands and turned to face Titan. "Today, we honor not only a great man," he said, voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "but the partner who never left his side." He knelt and gently fastened the ribbon around Titan's neck. The metal glinted against the dog's thick fur. Titan sat perfectly still, as if he understood the weight of this final tribute. All at once, every officer in the room raised their hands in salute. The widow pressed her hand over her heart, unable to speak. For one heartbeat, the entire church felt united by the same quiet awe. Titan lifted his head, his tail tapping softly against the floor, and the crowd erupted into a standing ovation that echoed like thunder. Long after the last person left the church, Titan remained beside the coffin, his medal catching the fading light. Officer Reed sat quietly on the nearest pew, watching over him. Neither spoke a word, because none were needed. Sometimes, love is louder than any command, and loyalty lasts longer than a lifetime. As the sun dipped behind the stained glass, Titan finally lay down, resting his head against the wood as if to say goodbye one last time. In that stillness, everyone who had witnessed it knew they'd seen something sacred, a bond too strong for even death to sever.